Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. So guys, Eddie Hearn's made some comments. Said that Canelo Alvarez could have fought Jermall Charlo, but instead he chose Dimitri Bivol. And he should be respected for that because Charlo's a way easier fight than Dimitri Bivol. I wanted to talk about this because I actually think that it's very true. You know, people say, well, Canelo picked Bivol, and a lot of the Canelo detractors say Canelo picked Bivol because he thought that was the easiest fight. Well, no, because Joe Smith was the easiest fight that he could have fought at light heavyweight. So that's nonsense, because if he was going to pick an easy fight at light heavyweight, he would have probably picked Joe Smith, who would have been the easiest out of the lot. No, but he picked Dimitri Bivol. Now, he also had offers on the table to fight Benavidez and Charlo, which without question, I don't think anyone can. And even prior to the fight, I said this. It's not like I'm saying that Bivol is way better than Charlo and Benavidez. It's not up for debate. And anybody that tries to argue that is delusional, because we all know that Dimitri Bivol is a far better fighter than those guys. It's not up for debate. And I've said this many times, that Dimitri Bivol is an exceptional talent. I actually think he's a bit underrated and overlooked. And not now, but prior to the Canelo fight, he was definitely underrated and overlooked. And obviously after the Canelo fight, I think now, as Oscar De La Hoya pointed out, he's a superstar and everybody knows who Dimitri Bivol is. But prior to the Canelo fight, I don't think a lot of people were really giving him the respect that he deserved. He probably deserved a lot more credit than what he got. Bivol is a very, very technically sound fighter. You know, and a lot of you guys say that, oh, Imran, you hate on Benavidez. Why don't you don't seem to give Benavidez the credit? Well, the reason why I don't give Benavidez the same kind of credit, because Benavidez is not technically nowhere near on the same stratosphere as Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri Bivol is a very technically sound fighter. Very, very technically sound fighter. Whereas someone like Benavidez, on the other hand, is not. He's actually quite loose. He's technically not the most soundest fighter. Defensively very leaky, I feel. But he has shown in the last couple of fights he's won his fights pretty easy against the competition that he's been in there. But Bivol has fought far better competition, and Bivol just looks technically very good. You very rarely see him in trouble. He's very consistent in what he does. His footwork is very good. His hand speed is very good. He gets in and out of range very quickly. He's just a very, very technically sound, overall complete fighter, which I don't really think David Benavidez is. But again, I would like to see David Benavidez step up, and maybe he can prove me and people like me wrong, that actually, David Benavidez is the real deal. I just think at this particular point, we don't know how good David Benavidez is. But Charlo, without question, I think that would be a lot easier fight for Canelo. There's no way, for me, Charlo is a huge problem for Canelo. I think Charlo is tailor-made. I do. I think Charlo is... I never rated Charlo that highly. I rate Charlo, but at the same time, I don't. And what I mean by that is, I think if he was to fight an Andrade, I would pick Andrade. I think against Benavidez, I think he has a chance against Benavidez, but I think you'd have to make Benavidez the favorite. It's just that Charlo of late hasn't looked impressive. Jermall Charlo hasn't looked impressive at all. He's looked relatively poor in his recent fights against Montiel. I just don't know how good Charlo is, and he hasn't really fought a lot of top names, a lot of top guys. And I would favor Canelo. I think Canelo will stop Charlo later on in that fight. I don't think Charlo would have much of a chance against Canelo. That's just my honest opinion. And I think Golovkin would beat Charlo as well. I've said this. I don't think Charlo beats Golovkin. Not at this point. While Golovkin's still there, Charlo hasn't shown me enough that he can beat somebody like Golovkin. Even though Golovkin's at the end of his career, I still would have to favor Golovkin massively, just because Golovkin is a proven commodity. He's still shown that he's still got a lot left, and yeah, I would have to still pick Golovkin to stop him. I just think Golovkin He's got a very good jab. Golovkin's got a very good right hand, very good left hook. Golovkin's a pressure fighter, and I think if Charlo can't really hurt Golovkin, how's Charlo gonna keep Golovkin off? It's very difficult, very difficult. And let's be honest, Golovkin is a natural middleweight as well. Charlo, he's moved up, but Charlo's a big guy. I just don't know whether Charlo would have to hurt Golovkin to be able to keep him off, and I don't think he can. And I think same with Canelo. I don't think he can just jab Canelo. Canelo's too smart for that. And I think Charlo also makes a lot of mistakes. He is leaky defensively, and that's a big problem against Canelo, because Canelo hits hard, and he's become a very good pressure fighter of late. And I think the style that Canelo did against Bivol, I think would work against Charlo, would work against most guys at 168 down. I think most of those guys, that style that Canelo has would work against those guys. Against Bivol is different because Bivol was bigger. He was technically very sound. He's a good boxer, very good amateur. And I just think stylistically, Bivol has a very horrible style for Canelo, whereas Charlo doesn't. So it makes the fight between Canelo and Charlo much easier for Canelo. But it's a big fight. It's a big fight. And Eddie's right. Canelo could have probably fought Charlo for a bigger fight, in a bigger fight, and it would have been a much easier fight. It would have probably been a fight where Charlo may have given Canelo a little bit of trouble, but Canelo would have come out on top. But Canelo decided to fight Dimitri Bivol, a guy that was unknown, a guy that was a champion, of course, but he was unknown, and he effectively, stylistically, was a very difficult fight for Canelo as well, and he neutralized Canelo. He beat Canelo pretty comfortably, which you have to give Canelo a lot of respect going up there to light heavyweight and trying. And now we know that if Canelo beats Golovkin, he's going to try and fight him again. So again, my respect for Canelo grows because he's trying to go back to where people think he's got no chance, and he's trying to rectify his loss, you know. And I've got a lot of respect for Canelo, man. I've got a lot of respect. I've always had a lot of respect for him. I think he has to be given a lot of respect. He could have fought Charlo, man. He could have fought Charlo. He didn't. He chose Bivol instead, man. I don't see how people, even prior to the fight, I think you'd have to be pretty delusional to think that Charlo was a much harder fight than Dimitri Bivol. And there were people out there that were pushing that narrative, which was embarrassing to me. It was embarrassing, you know, to push that narrative. But anyway, let's end that topic here. I want to talk about another topic. Joyce gets the job done against Christian Hammer. Joyce knocks him out in 4 rounds. A lot of people online were not impressed with Joyce's performance. They thought he was very leaky, and the general consensus that has come out that anyone that Joyce fights in the top tier, the Wilders, the Joshuas, the Dillian Whites, all knock him out. Why are fans so reactionary? I don't understand. Why are fans so reactionary? And what I mean by that is, this is a guy that people were saying, oh, he gives any heavyweight trouble. He's got a great engine. He's got a great chin. And he just keeps coming all night. What changed last night? What changed last night in his performance that makes you think, that made you change? A lot of people change their opinion that he gets wiped out by a lot of the top heavyweights. I've never rated Joyce that highly, to be honest with you. I always thought that he would get wiped out by the top heavyweights. But there's a lot of people that have changed their opinion on his performance against Hammer. But that's what Joyce is. Joyce he's got a terrible defense. He's always had a terrible defense. He takes a lot of shots on the chin, but he's got a good chin, so he gets away with it. But Joyce was no different to what he's always been. Takam was lighting him up. Dubois was hitting him. You know, he always gets hit. I don't see why people get so... why people, you know, change their opinion and are so reactionary on a performance. That's what Joyce is. Joyce is never going to be Muhammad Ali, you know, dancing around the ring elegantly. That's not what he is. He plods forward like George Foreman, just hasn't got the power. And people say Joyce can punch, or Frank Warren was saying it. No, he isn't. He isn't a big puncher at all. He wears people down. He's not a big puncher. He wears people down. He's not a big puncher by any stretch. there's a lot of people that are pushing a narrative about Joyce that he'll beat Alexander Usyk, that Joyce would walk Usyk down and tire him out and over 12 rounds. That's nonsense. Joyce isn't even quick enough to get to Usyk. He's so slow. Usyk's footwork and hand speed is so much that he's not even going to get near him. You know, Joyce, when like Fury and Usyk would play with Joyce, they would literally play with him. He's so slow. His feet are like they're stuck in the mud, that there's no way he could get near someone like Usyk. Usyk's even more fleet of foot than Fury, and he's just a better mover. His movement is just far more quicker than Fury. Fury being a much bigger man, he's not as well coordinated as a much shorter man in Alexander Usyk. Usyk just glides around the ring. He's got great angles. And I actually think, people say, well, Joyce has improved massively. Well, Usyk has got better since then as well, since he fought Joyce. See, a lot of people, when they're pushing a narrative, they always think about, well, Joyce has improved. No, well, Usyk's improved as well. He's got even better, and his movement, his lateral movement is going to be such a big problem, and Joe is going to be punching thin air all night, and his feet are so slow. Usyk moves so fast. He's got such great hand speed, such great foot speed over 12 rounds. And Joyce doesn't hit hard enough. He doesn't hit hard enough, and he takes so many flush shots. Like, he took Dubois shots. When he steps up to that Wilder, the Joshua, how many shots is he going to be able to take of those guys before they catch him with a shot that wipes him out? I don't care how good your chin is. If a heavyweight hits you on the chin, these top guys like Wilder with explosive power hit you, I just don't think you can survive. I don't think if Wilder hits him with a right hand, I just don't see Joyce surviving. So Joyce has to be a lot more defensively sound than what he showed against Hammer, because Wilder would put him to sleep. And to be honest with you, Wilder, he loves fighters like Joyce, slow, ploddy, not great footwork, just stand there. He likes fighters like that. You know, stylistically, you'd have to say Wilder could clean Joyce out in a round or two, because what you got to understand is Wilder's not Hammer. Wilder's going to hit you with shots that potentially can put you to sleep. So I don't see how Joyce beats Wilder. I don't see how he beats Joshua. I think Joshua would be too relentless. Look, he could gas Joshua out if he's able to, because Joshua's not a huge puncher. He's not a huge puncher by any stretch, right? He's more of a combination puncher. So if Joyce is able to take his power, he could gas Joshua out. With Usyk and Fury, no chance. Stylistically, all wrong. Too faster feet, too quicker hands. They'll play with him. They'll beat him easily. 12 rounds, comfortable points win. Joyce, unfortunately, is just too slow for those guys. Those guys are too nimble of feet. I don't see how people think stylistically Usyk troubles them at all. He's just too... Usyk and Fury are too fast for Joyce. Joyce is too slow. He's too slow of feet. And I think he gets beat. Now, there is talk that, Usyk is going to be the mandatory. I'm sorry, not Usyk. Joyce is going to be the mandatory to Usyk and Joshua winner. Is that a fight that I would like to see? Not really. I want to see the winner of Usyk and Joshua fight Fury. I think that's the fight that everybody wants to see. I think that's the fight that all the fans want to see as well, because that's really the fight that needs to be made. That's a great fight. It's a good fight. It's the best fight one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing. It's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. So it's a fight that we would all like to see. So hopefully that is a fight that gets made next, because that is the fight that I would like to see. And I'm pretty sure that is the fight that a lot of you would like to see as well. So yeah, let's hope that they give us the fight they want after Usyk Joshua. Fury has been, not that interested, saying that he's retired, he's not fighting again. A lot of people don't believe him, but you never know with Fury. Fury changes his mind every 2-3 days. He goes back, he's a bit contradicts himself. It's difficult to understand what going through Fury's head, because he's so up and down. You just don't know what he's thinking. Personally, I'd like to see him fight the winner of that fight. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a very important fight, and I think his legacy will be incomplete. If he doesn't fight who's the winner of Usyk and Joshua, his legacy will be incomplete, in my opinion. I think if he fights the winner and beats the winner, you can easily say he's the greatest of this era without any question. But yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share the video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.